Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. This is our second lecture in communicative language teaching, and we're still talking about the theoretical background of this method because it's important, the theoretical background, to understand what are the theories that support this method. Okay, the theoretical background of CLT, we will start with Halliday functional linguistics. Okay, Halliday believes that language is a tool that we use to perform a set of functions. Okay, he classifies language function into two groups. Okay, so this is the first theory that Halliday's functional linguist, and he talks about when we use language, so we perform functions, and he classifies them into two groups: macro functions and micro function. The macro function, they are concerned with the functioning of the language as a whole. Okay, the function of the language as a whole, that means the general function of the language in general or generally. They are summarized as follows. According to Halliday, so macro function are three. It's textual function, ideational function, and interpersonal function. The textual function, that means we organize our messages into text. When we talk, when we write, so we organize our messages into text. The ideational function, we use it in order to express what we know about the world around us. Okay, we express our inner thoughts and ideas about the world and the people and things around us through the use of language. So ideational function, we use it when we talk about the world around us. Interpersonal function, we use this function in order to interact with our fellow group members. We use it for interaction when we want to interact with others. So socialization activities and social interaction are the major functions that we perform through language. Okay, so the most important thing that we perform through language is socialization, make friends, communicate with others, interact with them. So this is the most important function of the language, is the interpersonal function. So this is the macro function, three functions. Now we move to the micro functions. There are 7, and we will start with the instrumental function. We use it, or I want function. We use this function in order to fulfill our material needs, what we want to do, what we want to say, okay, to perform our material needs. Okay, the regulatory function, or the do as I tell you, we use this function to control the behavior of others. Okay, when we want to have effect on influence the other, so we use the regulatory function. The heuristic function, to tell me why function, or tell me why function, when we want more information, to give me more information about this thing that I don't know. Okay, so we use this function to ask for more information about the world around us. The informative function, or I have got something to tell you function, we use this function to provide, to give more information about something that we think we know, we think it is new for the hearer. Okay, that means we have information that the others don't have, so we try to provide them or to give them this information. So it is the informative function. The imaginative function, or let's pretend function, is the use of language to express wishes and dreams. When we talk about our wishes and dreams, so we use the, this function is the imaginative function. The personal function, when we talk about ourselves, okay, here I come function, we use this function to talk about ourselves. The interpersonal function, or the you and me function, this is also a very important function that we socialize, we make friends, we interact, communicate with others. Okay, the second theory is Sunview, and Sunview argue that people can learn language through using them. Okay, people can learn by using the language, not learning the language in order to use it. Okay? In other words, students learn when they apply their knowledge of the language for communication. Okay? So their knowledge will be great when they apply what they have learned about the language for communication. You remember in grammar translation method, the students learn what? The usage of the language. They learn the patterns, the grammar rules, the structure, and the vocabulary. But they don't use the language. So here we come to the difference, or this theory talks about the difference between the use and the usage of the language. The usage refers to the linguistic accuracy of the utterances that students make, about the accuracy so it is concerned with what? With the grammaticality of the sentences produced by learners. On the other hand, the use of the language refers to the appropriacy of what the learner says. It refers to the social acceptability. What is accepted? What is appropriate? The appropriate use of the language that we can use, for example, in the different situation. When I talk, for example, to my friend, when I talk to my brother, it's different when I talk to my brother or to my boss or to the someone who is older than me. So it's the appropriate use of the language. The use is a sociolinguistic use issue. Okay, so use is a sociolinguistic issue because it's concerned with the acceptability and appropriacy of the use of the language, while the usage is about what should be said. I mean the accuracy of the language. Okay, whereas use is about how it should be said in order to be socially appropriate or acceptable. So this theory talks about the use and the usage, and the usage is about grammar and use about socialization. Now we come to Delham's theory of communicative competence. Helms argues that communicative competence is not only the knowledge of what to say. Okay, it's not about grammar, it's not about linguistics, but also the knowledge of how to say it, to whom, where, why, when, and with what effect. Okay, so it's not only to know what to say, okay, it's a correct word, but how to say it, to whom, where, why, when, and what effect. So communicative competence requires some abilities for the appropriate use of language. To be competent or communicatively competent requires more than linguistic competence. Requires in addition to linguistic competence, the speaker or the learner should have sociolinguistic competence, strategic competence, and discourse competence. Okay, so this is the theory of Delham's, that he emphasized that communicative competence requires more abilities for the appropriate use of language, and they are these 4 dimensions. Okay, these 4 dimensions are expanded by, here the last theory, Canal and Swin, they expanded and explained these 4 dimensions. What does it mean, for example, by the linguistic competence or sociolinguistic competence? So they expanded and they explained the 4 dimensions of communicative competence. Linguistic competence, it is the knowledge of language usage. That means the use of grammar, vocabulary, grammar rules, words, meaning, and so on. So linguistic competence is about these things, about the grammar rules, about the vocabulary, about the structure, about the words, the meaning, and these things. So linguistic competence tells the speaker what to say. Okay? So it's about what to say. What is the correct word or the correct phrase, for example, or the correct structure also. Okay. Sociolinguistic competence is the knowledge of social conventions. It is the knowledge of how people in different societies communicate. It is about when and how to make the best use of language. As I told you, for example, when you talk to your friend, to your a brother, to any family member, it's different when you talk to your boss, when you talk to someone older than you, to your teacher, for example. So it's not the same. Okay, that means you have to choose the appropriate use of the language, or to know. Learners should know and should be able to work according to the social conventions of the use of the language. Number three, it's not number one, number 3 and number 4 for this on this slide. Discourse competence is the third one, is the knowledge of text and context. It enables speakers to understand that words and sentences can have different meaning in different linguistic contexts. For example, when I ask you, for example, close the door, and I say, for example, they are sitting close to each other, or they have a close relationship. Okay, so discourse competence, it enables speakers to understand that words and sentences can have different meaning in different linguistic contexts. Okay, as I told you, for example, the word close the door, that means to close the door, but when I say they have a close relation, that means they have a strong relationship. Strategic competence, it helps when there is a gap between one's knowledge and the communicative requirements of the situation. Strategic competence enables speakers to initiate, maintain, or terminate communicative interactions successfully. So strategic competence, that learners should be able to initiate, to start, or to maintain, to continue speaking, or to terminate a conversation successfully. Okay, this is the strategic competence. Circumlocution here is talking about a topic. That means talking about a topic when one does not know how to express it. It's about avoidance of a topic, or structure coinage, or invention words. How to manage your conversation when you don't know how to express it. Okay, this is the circumlocution, and this is the last point in this lecture. And next time, inshallah, next week, we will start with the experience. Okay, so I want you to read the experience, please, so it will be easy when we explain it. Okay, thank you for today, and good luck.